Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. My name is Tate. Hi. We're back for another Doctor Who discussion. It's Doctor Who Tuesdays, which is a thing now that we just do, Doctor Who on a Tuesdays. And I'm joined by two guests today. I know it seems like we're building up to the finale, doesn't it? I'm joined by Aaron from Aaron at the Movies, and I'm joined by Sam. Say hi, both of you.
Hi.
Hello. Sorry, I was mid sip of water when you introduced, and I was like, oh.
How are we doing, boys?
Good, very good. Yeah, very. I'm finding it very weird that we're so close to the end of the series. It feels like it's barely begun, which is great. I'm just starting to really get into the characters now, and it's almost done, which sucks.
Yeah. I pretty agree, because it does feel weird that this series is almost over, and I think we've kind of said this on previous episodes. It's started off a bit rough, but each episode's kind of not outdone the last one, but like the quality's just gradually improved, and then it's about to end. So it's a weird double-edged sword. Like, I'm happy that the quality's improving, but I'm just like, I could do with a bit more, please. Thank you.
So I've been discussing it with friends and family over the last few weeks. Anyone really who watches Doctor Who, I've been trying to get a conversation with, and the big thing that everyone seems to be saying is the series is too short. Can't believe it's coming up to the finale already. And I know that back when kind of Ross T. Davis retook over back in 2005. There were a lot of filler episodes and stuff like that, but I feel like Doctor Who as a show needs those episodes just to kind of space out the series a bit, just to give it just a bit more kind of momentum instead of having it this short of a series and having it cut like this, 8 episodes done.
It feels more natural to have filler episodes as well in a show like this. I mean, I've said it before, and I think I'll always say it. I like Doctor Who to be an adventure, and I like it to go like, oh, it's these people just visiting different places, time periods, different places in space, and probably going to get in danger, but at the end it's fine and they move on. I don't need something where there's constantly a twist, which we will get to, but constantly a twist, constantly an arc that overshadows just the story that we're seeing. And I think if Rogue, which we'll get onto, didn't include any form of acknowledgement of a twist or something that's going to happen in the finale, I would have enjoyed it perhaps even more, because it's quite a fun story for what it is, and seems very much a classic kind of general Doctor Who episode, which is some of my favorites of that.
Yeah.
I
was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go for it. Go discuss.
The only thing I was going to add is that, funny enough, you mentioned things we'd usually get like filler episodes. If this was a normal length series, Rogue, because of the nature of the story, would kind of feel like a filler episode normally, but because it's a short series, it kind of I don't know what the words I'm going for here. It doesn't feel out of place. It just feels like this would fit perfectly within 13 episodes, but because we got 8, it kind of just feels like, oh, we've gone back to the old Doctor Who formula, whereas every other episode's tried something different. And I think the only one that's really stuck to the main formula other than this is probably Space Babies, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's definitely a weird one.
Well, I brought this up just before we kind of went live. I think this episode, and a lot of people have agreed online, should have been the second episode in the series, and should have really been put towards the start of the series. And realistically, Ruby recognizing Susan Twist at this point, but not discussing it with anyone else, that can still work within this episode. It isn't properly acknowledged. The Doctor doesn't really have a conversation about it or anything like that. So the one element that would put it later on in the series, you could have earlier on in the series in itself, because she would have seen her face at some stage at that point. This episode just feels like an introduction to the series. You've got, I know we're jumping all over the place here, but at the end of the episode, you've got the fake out of kind of Ruby being in danger or Ruby being dead. And they cut back to that kind of opening kind of dialogue with Ruby's mum saying, you'll keep her safe. And that feels like a very start of series thing to have, not a very end of series kind of flashback point to have. It's very interesting that they had that within the episode in itself. And outside of that, introducing a fun character like the Rogue, who makes reference to his new boss, which could link in with the Meep, which was kind of a not too distant callback if it was earlier on in the series and stuff like that. I just feel like it would have fit better, and it would have swapped very easily with the Devil's Cord, especially seen as in the Devil's Cord on the review we talked about it. They mentioned that they've been adventuring for 6 months at that point. And it was only 2 adventures in from what we'd seen. It didn't feel like they'd actually crossed that amount of time. So I do wonder why it was done in this order and whether this episode would have fit better.
Yeah, it is interesting. It doesn't bother me too much, I guess. It makes me think about the whole production side behind the scenes, kind of before everything, It makes me think, so the 3 specials and, the Christmas episode, but technically was it produced as part of, this including series 1, like into that, maybe that's why there's less episodes, perhaps, is they thinking, well, actually, this is just an extension of the specials. Because, I mean, in some ways it does feel like that, especially with what we're going to get, in the finale episodes with Units and Mel coming back and Rose as well. Like, it definitely feels like they bookended a little bit at this stage. But no, I mean, it is a weird placement for this kind of episode, but I guess they usually have kind of a funner, kind of lighter, I guess, episode before a finale. Like, I'm thinking, oh God, what was the episode before? the episode from series 2 that everyone doesn't like.
Love and Monsters.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Ooh.
Things like that. Right? It's like it's light. There's not too much to it. This story is quite simple. I guess I think the things that kind of offset this kind of simple story is the relationship between the Doctor and Rogue, and then by extension Ruby and the characters around her. I think is it Emily who is the person that she talks to a lot. Yeah, so it's interesting seeing those interactions in this kind of episode.
Yeah, no, it is. Even if, like, say for example, you pushed you took Space Babies, and I still think it's a weird one to start the series with. But if you kept that as the first one, pushed all the other episodes back, and then shoved Rogue in the second place, but still kept like Devil's Cord third, and then the rest of the series as it plays out, even that would still make more sense, because it would make the natural progression of them recognizing Susan Twist more make more sense, because in Dot and Bubble they make a very apparent reference to it, and 73 Yards is the first time it's referenced as far as I'm aware, but it would just make it more natural, because in this episode it's like you notice it's a thing, but like it's not something they kind of stop to acknowledge. It's just kind of, it's there, then move on. Whereas in Dot and Bubble and 73 Yards, they went out of their way to kind of go, oh, right, hang on a minute, and that would, it's a little bit like Utopia with Series 3, like that kind of bled into the finale a lot more. Whereas I think if they'd done that and put Rogue second and having the rest of the episodes play out as they are currently, it would just feel like a more natural thing. Like they're noticing her more and more and more. And then the 2-part finale comes along, whereas you have them noticing her this episode where it's acknowledged a little bit and then they move on. It just, my OCD's kicking in.
It's like ticking a box. It's like ticking a box with this episode. Like, oh yeah, we've inserted the Susan Twist thing today. Now let's just forget about it and move on.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah. So very quickly, because I haven't even talked about kind of what the actual episode is about. So the Doctor and Ruby land in 1813, where guests at the Duchess' party are being murdered, and a mysterious bounty hunter called Rogue is about to change Doctor's life forever. Now, before we actually go in and talk about the actual episode, I want to very quickly talk about a run of episodes, because Doctor Who, over its kind of many years that it's been running since 2005, has had some episodes which have been a lot of filler and stuff like that, which haven't worked. But they've also had episodes where it goes on a run. It's had like 4 or 5 fantastic episodes in a row where, you talk about it and you go, yeah, those were really good episodes. It did not lose momentum. It kept the tempo up and everything like that. 2 of my favorite runs would have been towards the end of Martha's kind of stint, with kind of going on from Blink all the way through to kind of the start of the finales with Utopia and everything like that, including the Family of the Blood and all of those episodes in between. You've also got the episode run with Donna Noble. So, you know, the Midnight episodes, the Forest of the Dead episodes, all the way through to the finale there was another fantastic run. I'm going to go ahead and say something which may be controversial, but this run of episodes from Boom all the way down to Rogue, these 4 episodes have been brilliant. They've all been really, really fun, good adventures week in, week out.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. To be honest, I was going to mention the end of Series 4 because that is my for me. It kind of starts with Unicorn on the Wasp because I think that episode doesn't get as much love as it should. But from that episode onwards, like you have that, then you have the Silence in the Library 2-parter, then you have Midnight, which is my personal.
Left. Oh.
Yeah, Midnight is my personal favorite Doctor Who episode of all time. Just saying. And then you have the 2-part finale, which is just incredible. Like that run of like 4 or 5 episodes is phenomenal. Like the writing's on point. Just everything about those 4, 5 episodes is brilliant. And it's not as good as that run or even the Series 3 run, but I'm really liking how the quality is improving. And Boom was definitely the first one where like, okay, I'm starting to see like an actual cohesive kind of idea coming through, whereas I felt Space Babies was a bit all over the place, and even Devil's Cord to an extent. Like I saw the core concept, but everything in the execution of it felt a little bit messy. It was like an episode I wanted to like preemptively going in, but then I came away going, I'm not sure. But then from Boom, it's been like, okay, that was really well written. 73 yards, brilliant concept, and it's incredibly well executed. Dot and Bubble grew on me the more the episode went on, and then obviously that ending happened, and then this one is a fun episode that we kind of usually would have had back in like the original RTD era. And I just wish the whole series was like that, even if, again, I'm kind of picking on Space Babies again.
It's
Devil's
okay.
Court. Yeah. See, Devil's Court I can kind of let slide because like there are really good ideas in that episode. It's just the execution's a bit. But Space Babies, I still can't think of a single redeeming thing about that episode. And I know there are some people that probably like it, but like you're on your own now. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just like. If they were going to really commit to this 8-episode run, like there are good shows out there that only have like 8 or 9 episodes in them. But again, having those first 2 episodes be kind of weak links and the rest of the series getting better, I'd rather have just. It sounds horrible nitpicking it like this, but I'd rather have 8 really solid episodes rather than 13 where there's like a mix of variety, even though length is one thing I've been mentioning multiple times throughout the streams. But it's a weird one because the quality's getting better, but like I just wish we'd kind of had consistent quality rather than a duff start and then it's getting better. I'm mincing my words, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not as kind of confident about it being a solid run. I mean, I think I like Devil's Cord a lot, but I'm not. I can't say I loved 73 yards. I know I've not been on since Space Babies and Devil's Cord, so I've not really been able to kind of like share anything. But Boom, I really liked 73 yards. I think the concept was good, but I just feel like they dropped the ball a little bit with the ending, and I wasn't maybe fully convinced by the episode itself. And this is when I kind of think just either a little bit longer with it, or potentially if they kind of had a longer intro, they could have potentially done a 2-parter because it's quite creepy and eerie what's happening. So yeah, but Dot and Bubble I loved, and probably still is my favorite of the series so far, because I really enjoyed the concepts. But again, if it had been a bit longer, I would have liked to have seen a bit more of the Doctor and Ruby, but I'm sure like that's just maybe more behind the scenes than anything else with Shooty's schedule. But yeah, I don't think anything is going to match something like Series 4, where I think I probably could watch it all and say, do you know what, that's the most consistent run. But I'm completely on board with what Aaron said. The Unicorn and the Wasp onwards is kind of probably my favorite run of episodes, at least from Modern Who. But Yeah, at least I'm very happy with what we've got, I guess, as a kind of series so far compared to, you know, I've been watching Classic Who recently, and there is a lot of clunkers, you know, in quick succession in certain eras of the show, and stuff. And I know I've not seen Whittaker's era yet, but I know the backlash against some of those, and that maybe the
Do
writing
you know
for
what?
some of those was not.
You can't call it a bad run of form in Whittaker's because it's more of like all the episodes are at one level. They're like a 5 out of 10. Every single episode is a 5 out of 10. And then every now and then you'll get an episode which is a 6 out of 10, and suddenly it'll be considered a great episode for Whittaker's run, but it's still a 6 out of 10 Doctor Who story. It's still a 6 out of 10 kind of writing level, even if the acting performances kind of elevate it up there. Then across Whittaker's run as well, there was a few where it was a proper like this is a 0 or 1 out of 10 kind of just terrible ideas brought to the screen.
Orphan 55.
don't. We do not mention that. Okay, we do not mention that.
I'm so worried to watch this episode because I saw that brought up like on Twitter, and I was like, "What is this episode?" Because I just don't have any context for it.
I'll give you a bit of context. It's got Jay from The Inbetweeners in it, but he is fine in that episode.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't get much to do. No, actually, I was going to say something, but I'm not going to go there.
I wiped it from my memory, apart from a few things like Benny. Where is my Benny?
The Benny thing is what I was going to bring up because I'm just like, right? No, I'm not going to.
Yeah, okay, we're moving on. We're moving on.
Road.
So, do you know what? The character's name being an episode doesn't happen often. We get Rogue, the Rogue, coming in as a character. Loads of speculation as to who he would be from the start of the episode. A member of, you know, the Time Agency, which I guess they didn't really say whether he's a member of the Time Agency. They just kind of said that he was a bounty hunter, and that was basically it. He is a Captain Jack Harkness styled character, shall we say, who, you know, travels the galaxy, bounty hunting and everything like that. And there's so many different things that I have to say about Jonathan Groff's performances, because I've seen him in, you know, of course, we've heard his voice from Frozen. I've seen him from Hamilton and stuff like that. I haven't really seen him in much else. Like Glee. I see.
I always have to remind myself, because I mostly know him as the King from Hamilton, but then every now and then I go, oh, hang on, he was the newer version of Agent Smith in Matrix Resurrections.
He was,
and then I always forget he's in that film, and then my brain just goes, yeah, he was in that.
I always forget that film exists, so there you go.
I have a soft spot for it.
He was in Mindhunter. That's where I mainly know him from. He was fantastic in Mindhunter, a show which Netflix should bring back, 100%.
Yeah, I still need to watch that.
Yeah, brilliant. But anyway, I'll go ahead and say it straight away. Brilliant performance. Really enjoyed the character, the way they kind of introduced him. Kind of little details kind of seeping out throughout the entire episode. And, you know, I really enjoyed kind of, you know, having a fun kind of sidekick possible for the future character come through and everything like that. I don't really have much to say about the Rogue as a character, because I think this episode should have been a two-parter. And the reason why I think it should have been a two-parter was because this story, even though it was, like we said, a bit of a filler story, I feel like there was so much more to explore with not only the character, but also the setting, the monsters from this episode. And 45 minutes is not enough for that. I feel like expand it over a kind of longer term episode, have a midpoint threat at some point in the episode. And one thing I will say, make me buy the romance between him and the Doctor, because they do have instant sizzle on the screen, but I don't think it was given enough time to really kind of stew and really kind of come out and everything like that. So I'd be interested to hear your opinions on that as well, because I feel like with romances in Doctor Who, they need to be really given time to kind of mold and melt. And I enjoyed it as kind of an instant romance, but I wish there was just an extra episode to really explore it.
Yeah, I do get what you mean. Because I can't really think of another episode where like a romance, especially for the Doctor,
has Girl in the Fireplace. And that's the one thing I'll say about the episode is it was needed more time to brew.
Yeah, actually, yeah, no, okay. Now that you mention it, it is very similar in that sense. Not just the setting, but like, actually, there's a lot of similarities. But now
so
the
many
more
similarities.
the more I'm thinking about it, I've got the cogs turning in my head. I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. You got like aliens in the wrong time period, love interest. The time period's almost identical. Yeah, good God, I didn't think about that. But yeah, I do agree. Like, I think the flirtatious kind of chemistry that they had really worked, but it just felt like there was a certain thing that, because I feel like the best kind of romances that do come up in Doctor Who kind of are given like a lot of the season to kind of flourish. Like, I don't know, the best one I can think of is the Doctor and Rose got like a whole 2 seasons to kind of weave in and out of like that relationship building. And I know that Rogue is a slightly different character and we've only just been introduced to him, but like you said, even if we just had one extra episode, even if it was a continuation of this one, or if he popped back up again in whatever the next adventure would be, if we had more episodes, it just would have helped a little bit. But I do like how they've kept it open, and there is the possibility of him coming back. So hopefully that, again, it's too early to tell, but that
I
might
think he'll come
rectify
back.
it.
I think he'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do hope that that's something they can kind of build upon now that they've established what they did here.
I'm in two minds about the whole thing, purely because I think I enjoyed what I saw, and I think it would be different if the chemistry wasn't there, but there was instant chemistry. As soon as they kind of like, as the Doctor walks up to Rogue initially, I was like, they are looking at each other. I was like, they are looking at each other. And I think had they not spent enough one-on-one time together, a lot of this time the Doctor's just with Rogue and Ruby's doing her own thing. I would buy it less, but I do buy it, and I think because of the type of conversations that they have, I think there's an instant recognition between the both of them, kind of a mutual kind of we understand each other. In general, I don't really like the Doctor to have relationships anyway. I'm definitely more kind of, the Doctor has friendships and may, have certain ideas of love towards someone, but it can never be anything super significant. I think I buy River a lot just because she is in his life so much. And, she's literally one of the only people that he could potentially really truly trust. So with this, I guess it's kind of a bit of romantic, the setting where they are, what's going on. For me, it's more they're in this situation that most of the time they would not be in together. See people like that, so I'm pretty happy with what it was. But again, I'm just kind of like, the Doctor should really be single, but I don't mind if the Doctor has a little bit of fun and has a little bit of, we can maybe do this, because it's going to inevitably end in tragedy for one person or another. And then once that Doctor changes, it's very rare for the Doctor to regenerate and still retain that same kind of level of love or relationship. We saw kind of how the relationship between Clara and 11 changed when he regenerated into 12, and how that relationship kind of changed for the better, I think. So yeah, but the performances were fantastic, and I think if they hadn't have had those performances, Jonathan Groff is exceptional, I think, in this. And if the chemistry wasn't there, I think it would be a completely different story. But I feel the same way about The Girl in the Fireplace. Like, if the performances weren't as strong, maybe it would be different. But for that episode, it's a nice kind of what could have happened, had this kind of the ending not occurred. And I think that's something that they try to leave with viewers. So I think that's the strongest vibe I get, is that element of sadness, like happy that it happened, because it's kind of a nice, what if we had a romance for a night at a party and then suddenly it was gone. So those are the kind of vibes that I try to take from it.
Okay, I can see it from that end. And, you know, I will say the chemistry they had on screen was fantastic. It's good to see two good actors kind of, you know, have a go with, you know, a piece of material like this. And, you know, Kate Herron wrote the script from Loki, and she'd done episodes for Sex Education before. So she'd worked with Shooty previously. So, of course, she had that chemistry with them and everything like that. So brilliant across the board in that sense. I do need to bring up the fact that we are in 2024 and people are still getting angry over a on-screen kiss, let alone one between two men, which is absolutely ridiculous that people are still making complaints about stuff like this, especially from a show like Doctor Who, which has not only had this before, but come on. It's like it has, you know, a male star in the leading role who is openly gay. You know, you've got a writing team who are also, you know, coming from a queer background and everything like that. So how on earth are we still at this stage where people are complaining about a show like Doctor Who, which is, you know, showing these relationships on screen as if they, you know, should be shown? Like there is no discussion over it. It's absolutely fine. And yet we still have to talk about the fact that people do make a noise about it, which is ridiculous.
Do you know what annoyed me the most, actually, is the fact that the amount of actual like articles on Twitter and Facebook and all that kept quoting this as the first same-sex kiss in the show's history, and I'm like, no, I can think of at least 3 or 4 other instances where that's happened. I can even name you the bloody episode.
Or have they? They've never seen Torchwood before.
No, like there's Torchwood, there's like episodes of Doctor Who itself where
John Barrowman kissed Chris Eccleston in series 1. Like, you know, if we want to go to like the Doctor having a gay kiss, technically that's there.
Yeah. But absolutely crazy that it's still, you know, thing that's being discussed.
It's frustrating. It really is, because, you know, there's so much else to talk about. And, you know, for someone like me who was 11, 12 when The Girl in the Fireplace, no, it was 11 when that came out, and you know, have the Doctor kissing someone, you know, even Rose kissing the Doctor, you know, that was all there, placed in front of me at that age. And it didn't make me any more straight. So, I mean, there's no reason why this can't happen. And it was done in, I think, a really authentic way. And it wasn't like they were snogging the entire episode either. And really, I think it's just a way for, you know, what Aaron was saying about the articles. It's just a way to get clicks at the end of the day for people who don't know any better, who've not really been watching Doctor Who for God knows how long, have a preconceived notion of what it is. Oh, Doctor Who's having a gay kiss. Oh, what's going on there? And
Doctor Who's gone woke. What?
It's honestly just, it takes the enjoyment away. Because it should be something that is maybe not overtly celebrated because it's just a kiss, but you know, there's a lot of people, and hopefully younger people, who see that, who recognize a bit of themselves and go, oh, you know what, that makes me feel better. And to me, there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. So we haven't actually talked about the Monster of the Week yet, which, I mean, for all of the design behind the Monster of the Week and the actual monsters themselves, who are absolutely fantastic. What a terrible name. Shoulder. Come on. Brilliant monster design. We get another shape-shifting alien. We were talking about this once again before the stream, how many shape-shifting aliens there are in Doctor Who. But done in a really cool and authentic way, in the fact that we get them as people who want to cosplay the universe, who want to go out and play dress up just for the sake of playing dress up, don't care about, you know, the lives of the people around them, and are very happy to, you know, kill people to assume identities because their life sounds way more fun than the previous body, which is just a brilliant way of doing it, a brilliant way of drawing in the episode. And they draw the comparisons to Bridgerton, and, you know, I'm shocked they mention Bridgerton so much for a BBC and Disney Plus kind of show against their rivals Netflix. It's hilarious how many times they mentioned it. I'm going to throw in a theory here, which I have seen online, which, you know, we'll talk about the Cholder in a second. But so the Rogue has a bird-shaped ship and you know is playing the role of a bounty hunter in the thing, sacrifices himself in the end, and takes them to a place which he has control over. Was he a Cholder?
Right. I see what you mean, actually. I see what you mean.
Was he cosplaying himself?
I mean, the fact that like we don't have a distinct name for him, and he's kind of just got his title from the D&D game, because the dice were in the. I don't know. To be honest, I completely, now that you mention it, and I'm thinking about it, I didn't actually clock that his ship was bird shaped.
I clocked it straight away. I was like, he's got a bird shaped ship. The whole thing is going to be that he's one of the Cholders at the end of the episode.
I want to see a picture of that ship now.
Yeah.
The other theory I've seen floating around online, which is absolutely more plausible, was he mentions that he was traveling around with someone for a period of time. Is that Captain Jack? Is the other question that you pose. And
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't like to say. I mean, I think in some ways it'd be nice, but I'm sure I would like to think, tragic loss, more so in relation to kind of the Doctor. There's some kind of someone's died. I mean, that's kind of what I think on that. But I think it's interesting to theorize, and I hope if he does come back, there's more layers that we can see. Because it's a good kind of character to have. I like having recurring characters like that. If he was a Cholder, that would be like, whoa. That would be, it played a long game.
Yeah.
And like in 2 series time, like reveal that. And that would be like, okay, so this episode was actually way more important than we thought. But no, the Cholder themselves, I mean, I like that they were each different as well. Like it wasn't like a Slitheen, like, they're all the same. Each has a different look and stuff. I have to say, Indira Varma, absolutely adore her, and I've been waiting for this episode for like over a year because I met her at Star Wars Celebration last year, and I went up to her and I was like, "Oh, like I loved you as Susie Costello." No, I was like, "Justice for Susie Costello in Torchwood." And then she was like, "Oh, so you like Doctor Who?" I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, I might be doing some Doctor Who soon." And I was like, "Really?" And I just was like, ever since then, I've been like, when is it happening? So when she was announced it being in the series, I was like, okay, I'm there. But I love her in anything that she's in. So I'm really glad that she got kind of a really good part in this, not just to play the Duchess as she was, but then the Cholder version. And she, for me, is like my standout of the episode for a part that's maybe not the biggest, but when she's on screen, she really makes it work.
My favorite part was the whole talk, because she only knows the name the Doctor.
Oh yeah,
she starts talking about live vivisections and everything like that, because that's what she assumes that the Doctor would be like. And thought that was hilarious.
I mean, that's when the script is like, okay, you know what you're doing. like, as in like, I really kind of love the humor in this episode as well, which works with this kind of villain.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think I actually said to Tate before we came on, is that like, considering this episode's not written by Russell T Davies, this feels like the most Russell T Davies episode we've had so far, which is just from like the quips and the playfulness of the episode and the use of Kylie Minogue, which that whole bit was golden. Like, I absolutely
that had me chuckling quite a lot. Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I'm still like hung up on the Rogue might be a Cholder theory. I can't get my head off.
Like, but was he?
Yeah, because like if it is the long, sorry, because it just makes. Maybe that makes sense that he's sacrificed himself and he's gone with the other Cholders to wherever the device just dumped them.
Because so that was his role to do that in the first place. Maybe he does know where the device goes. Maybe it isn't to a weird pocket dimension. Maybe he knows exactly where it's going because he's part of their plan.
Yeah. Do you think this is something that will be addressed in not this week's episode, but maybe next week's?
I
No,
don't think so.
I think
No.
Rogue will come back next series
Mm,
when the
okay.
big boss comes around, because he mentions the big boss, just like the meat. But anyway, the only other things we got to talk about is a bit of Easter eggs time and kind of talking about next week with the finale. So, long-time Doctor Who fans, I had no idea about this, but Richard E. Grant once played the Doctor. Twice, actually, 2 times. One time in the Red Nose Day special, Curse of Fatal Death, and the other time of what's it called? The Shoulder, the
Curse of the
Scream
Shulker.
is it Scream of the Shulker?
Yeah,
Scream the
that's the one.
Shulker. And his face appears on the Wheel of Faces for the Doctor. Now, we've seen him in Modern Who as the Great Intelligence, which he played fantastically. But now it is official canon that one of his Doctor forms was the Doctor at some stage, which is fascinating. I wonder if they're going to explore that a little bit more, or maybe even that's just a future casting for the Doctor that we have no idea about. I would also be happy with that. But yeah, really interesting that they decided to bring in an Easter egg from one of those 2 things. I wonder if we'll see a Rowan Atkinson Doctor. Who else was Doctor in that? There was
Hugh Grant, Jim Davidson,
Joanna Lumley.
Joanna
Joanna Lumley. Yeah. I wonder if we'll see any of those incarnations come through as well in the future.
I've seen, every theory, well, not theory, but everything I've seen online kind of leans more to it being the Shulker Doctor, because I think if it was going to reference the Comic Relief one, we would have had one of those other actors. But I've seen more people leaning more towards the Shulker thing because it was this one-off. I think for quite a few years it was kind of a lot of people's Doctor Who, like, because obviously that you had the very long gap between where the show ended and then where it was brought back in 2005. So for a lot of people, I think that was their best bit of Doctor Who media to consume during that time, and it's just this one-off animated thing. So I think
he have
they're
a
more
screen
going
test around about the same time, before or after McGann? Did he have a screen test? I can't remember.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I remember seeing the image of Richard E. Grant's Doctor in Scream of the Shulker as a kid, and it was before the show came back, but it always just was like, oh, this is just a random thing. And I think for a lot of people that is the case. So it was just a version of Doctor Who to kind of just fill in that gap for a little bit. So it never ever occurred to me that it would ever be made canon. And of course, I think people joke about it being a Curse of the Fatal Death Doctors, but I mean, at this point, with kind of what we know about the Timeless Child and kind of other incarnations of the Doctor outside of what we've kind of seen on screen since 62, 63. I'm sorry. I don't really mind at this point because I'm like, it just feels like there's way more Doctors than we even know about. So I guess if you want to go ham and do it, do it. So I think for the people who were maybe brought into Doctor Who because of that, I think it was 2003 when Shulker came out. I think for some people that would have been the most amazing thing ever. And again, it's not anything bad that they've done this. It is just to kind of add that. Well, what if the Doctor was this person too? And what is everything around that? For me, it's more. Oh, I'm just a bit more confused now. But there's no harm in the grand scheme of things. And I think, I would have loved to have seen Richard E. Grant be the Doctor in an actual legit series. Especially, I think definitely could have played the Doctor in the 90s. I think that would have been absolutely, a massive, massive fun.
I do wonder if this is his ticket to Big Finish, if they wanted to bring him on board for more stories.
I don't know. I think has Richard E. Grant done some Big Finish stuff?
He might have.
Just
I think
thinking.
he comes back on as the Great Intelligence, I think, or he's come back as a secondary character for some Doctor Who Big Finish. But am I right in saying that Scream of the Shulker is also where we got a first taste of Derek Jacobi as the Master? Because I'm pretty sure he voices a character in that.
Yes, yeah, he does voice the Master. Yeah, I was just checking again because I remember Craig Kelly's in it as a character. David Tennant is uncredited in it.
Okay.
It's a very weird point in time because it's so close to 2005 when this came out. It must have, like, for me, it must have just been kind of done right before RTD actually, got the show greenlit and stuff. So it's a really interesting point in time, yeah, because it was released in November and December 2003. So it's less than 18 months.
Yeah, that is a
Hmm.
very weird, because I think I mean I'm only going off of this mini documentary thing that I saw, but I'm pretty sure that like it was Derek Jacobi's voice for the Master in that then subsequently got him cast in Utopia to play Professor Yana, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it kind of, I mean, timeline wise, it makes no sense, but logistically, all the pieces start to make a bit more sense now in terms of like, okay, I get that they're, and again with the timeless child thing, like you said, it kind of gives them a bit more. It gives them a bit more of a playground to kind of go, right, we're going to take from this, but we're not going to take from that, or we're going to take elements from this thing and we're now going to just put it in here and it's now canon. And I kind of like that they now have that, and I think that's possibly the best way that Russell T Davies could have taken something as so controversial as the Timeless Child, something that was handled weirdly by Chibnall. Whether you love or hate the concept, the way it was executed was a bit odd and was very info dumpy. But Russell T Davies, I feel like, is doing the best he can in terms of like, right, he set this thing up and I'm just going to try and make it work. And I feel like it's stuff like this where it's not in your face, but it's kind of in the background and you still kind of acknowledge it every once in a while. That I think is probably the best way he could be taking it, because I don't really know what else anyone could do with something like the Timeless Child at this rate.
Yeah. And John Martin's in it as well, which is good to kind of, it really solidifies, that she is the Doctor too. And I think we've kind of all agreed in the past when we talked about Doctor in the past that, John Martin is like, I would like to see more of her. I guess
She's
in
still
the
out
show.
there.
Yeah.
I just want to say she is still out there traveling the universe on a different timeline or in a different setting or anything like that. Sorry, it was the Scream of the Shalka. We've been getting it wrong. He is, I mean, Richard E. Grant's listed as the Ninth Doctor from the Scream of the Shalka. He's been listed and credited on the Doctor Who wiki as the Ninth Doctor for this episode as well, which is fascinating. Or the
numbers have no meaning anymore.
Numbers have absolutely no meaning anymore.
As soon as John Hurt was introduced, numbers were thrown out the bloody window.
He's the W Doctor, right? He's the War Doctor. W's a number, right?
Yeah, but if we're talking numerically, he's like 8.5.
Yeah, he's
10.5.
Yeah,
Tennant, and
they got 10 Part 2, who's actually 14. So anyway, final thing to talk about is Susan Twist. Now, Susan Twist is going to be the kind of centerpiece of the next episode. So it's our last time to get any theories out and everything like that. I mean, she's never... We call her Susan Twist because that's the actual actor's name. And it's so funny that, throughout this series, we've had songs where it says there's always a twist at the end. And yet we're talking about an actor's name here, not an actual character's name, which is fascinating. That, and I was mentioning to this, Aaron, beforehand, we're calling her by her actor's name, not by her character's name, because she has too many different character names to call her by anything. But at the same time, it's what she's been referred to as, which is really, it's great advertising for her as an actress. She's getting so much kind of, so many people talking about her and, having discussions about her and everything like that. But what do we think? Who do we think she is going to be in the final episode? How do you think they're going to sort this out?
I honestly don't know. I feel like we've had so few episodes and so much kind of like, oh, this could happen, and kind of obviously she's kind of the main thing, but there's still kind of Mrs. Flood. It's like she is definitely going to be in this finale. So what's the deal there? there's been mentions of Triad. You know, we had the Vlinks in, you know, working with units. You know, they'll most likely be there again. There's been references to, you know, the Doctor's family to Susan. There's so many different things out there. I don't know how they connect. I know there's been talk because there's a Tales of the TARDIS episode that's going to come out, which people were theorizing who's going to be in it, what it's going to be about. I think it was confirmed that Shooty and Millie were going to be the characters in that, and that it could just be a clip show. But there was a theory that it could be the Pyramids of Mars from the Fourth Doctor's era, and that Susan Twist's character would actually be a relation to Sutek, which was one of the big classic baddies, and probably from Pyramids of Mars is one of the, you know, most remembered classic episodes from the Fourth Doctor. So that would be interesting, but at the same time, you know, this could be a completely original villain and have nothing. This could all just be random things, just random theories. So yeah, I feel like I feel so dumb. I'm not gonna lie, because I feel like there's nothing confident that I can put to the table in this one.
Well, her character name in the finale is Susan Triad, and S Triad is an anagram for TARDIS. So
yeah,
she's a TARDIS.
She's a TARDIS. No, there have been. I've seen the Sutek things coming up, and you know, people talking about that. The episode is going to involve Unit. It's going to involve, you know, Carla and Cherry. It's going to involve Mrs. Flood. So it's going to bring everything, I think, together, and we'll just see how it goes. Now, one of my questions is, because we know we get Rose Noble in there, we know that Donna's going to be working for Unit as well. I wonder if we'll get a Donna cameo come through or not. It'd be very interesting to see whether she pops up.
Maybe. I mean, I think I might be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure I've seen set pictures of not just Donna, but David Tennant as the 14th Doctor in like shots that we haven't even seen from like the 60th specials. And I've seen a lot of people saying like he might come back just for one thing to kind of round up this, whatever this story is. But similar to Sam, I have no idea what's going on anymore, and I don't really know what they're doing. The one, this is a character I don't really know much about, so I'm taking it with a huge grain of salt. But the one and only theory I've seen is like Susan Twist might be the Rani, but the Rani is something that gets thrown around every couple of seasons.
Every single female character who gets introduced to Doctor Who is the Rani.
I would love it.
So.
I would love it if she was, just because I feel like the Rani's such untapped potential. As a scientist, Time Lord, Time Lady, who, you know, only really had 2 stories in Classic Who, and it was towards the end of the run, so you know she didn't really get a proper chance. But I mean, Kate O'Mara was really fantastic in playing that role, and it's a pretty campy character. So I don't know if it would fit with what they're trying to tell here, but I definitely think if this was the case, absolutely fine. Could it be a scientific experiment where she's just been transported to different areas and she's playing with the Doctor? I don't know, but that would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, that is literally the only theory I've seen, so that's the one I've kind of got in my head. But at this rate, I have no.
Yes,
my brain is a blank canvas.
Have I just, has your brain just turned to mush after I've told you that, you know, Rogue could be a shoulder, and that's just, you know,
I'm still not recovered. We're going to get to like 2 weeks' time, and I'm going to be on the finale stream, and I'm just going to be there going, yeah, but what if he is? He might be.
It doesn't matter what we've just seen. What about Rogue?
Yeah.
Or even when we get to like series 2, like next year or whenever, I'll just be like, yeah, but what about Rogue?
Rogue, is he a shoulder? Like, anyway, we want to hear your comments below on this episode of Doctor Who, on Doctor Who in general throughout the series. Do you think the Rogue is a shoulder? That's the big question we're posing this week. On behalf of Aaron, there to put his mind at ease.
Yeah, don't spam the comments on my channel. Just leave it for here. I don't want to do an episode on Doctor Who when it's finished and then have people just going, yeah, but is he?
Yeah.
Just gonna tweet you every day now.
Literally every single day. But we're coming up to we're coming close.
I would like to say it was lovely that there's a tribute to William Russell at the end of this episode.
Of course, yeah.
I think it was, I was absolutely gutted because Ian Chesterton was a fantastic companion, and honestly, I don't even he is I know people complained he wasn't the leading man. It was the Doctor, but it was he was the person who was doing the action, who was being kind of the physical presence of the original TARDIS team. And to kind of the fact that him and Carolyn Ford have been kind of continuing to kind of keep that legacy going, and now that it's just Carolyn Ford, it's quite sad, especially because he reached 99, which I don't think anyone could bat their eyes about. That's a really fantastic achievement, and obviously that legacy lives on. And I'm just really glad that he managed to come back for that one episode at the end of Jodie's era. So that we could see him on screen again, because he hadn't been on it for since 1964, now 65, I think. So what a stretch between appearances.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because that would have completely slipped my mind. Yeah, it was a thing that the Who team had put out a kind of statement this week, and they put a kind of in memory of during the episode as well. It is a shame when Doctor Who loses members of its own community and everything like that, and it's As time goes on, sadly, so does Who goes on, and their legacy continues with that and everything involved there. Don't really know how to segue into our socials off the back of that, but I will put it there anyway. Go follow us on all of our socials, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, at Cinema Savvy. You can go find those on the Linktree link in the description as well, and go onto TeePublic to. Not even TeePublic, we're on Redbubble. We've been on Redbubble for a while now to get some merch, like the pillow that has been sat in the background throughout this entire video. And I am also going to thank both of you for coming on tonight. It's great to have more people on for a Doctor Who discussion. So I'm going to put your socials up there on the screen. We're going to go around. So Aaron, what is happening with you at the moment?
I'm going to be plotting a massive "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia" size thing on the wall, trying to figure out if Rogue is a Chelder. I don't actually know what I've got coming up. Everything's a bit hectic over at the Aaron at the Movies channel at the moment, but there is stuff in the works. For the Love of Film is slowly coming back, so yeah, expect more of that soon. And a video on this series of Doctor Who. I'll be doing my own summary of this series at some point soon when it ends.
Right, good. And Sam, what's happening with you at the moment?
Well, the main thing that I'm doing at the moment is, last week The Acolyte started, so I was on Cinema Savvy last Wednesday to talk with George and Phil about that. So I may be on tomorrow talking, I think, episode 3. So for me, it's had a great start. So if anyone's interested in that, then come along to Cinema Savvy again tomorrow. But yeah, aside from that, I'm just working on some things behind the scenes for License to Queer that I've written for before, hoping to get an article out this summer, at least anyway. I keep on pushing this back and back and back, but I'm so close to being finished with this in time for a special Bond film's 50th anniversary. So that's kind of the main two things I'm doing. And I'm watching a lot of Pokemon right now. A lot of classic Pokemon. So
brilliant.
Which I'm occasionally tweeting about.
I can get behind that any day. I love Pokemon. Yeah. So, excellent. Brilliant. So, finale just around the corner. We will be back next week to discuss The Legend of Ruby Sunday. Very excited. It's a shame the series is coming to a close, but, I'm really looking forward to the discussion as we get into kind of, not the important episodes. All the episodes are important, but, the ones that probably going to cause the most discussion. So thank you ever so much, everyone, for watching, and we will see you on the next one.